So keep in mind factor one in the catastrophe, nightmare, apocalypse now scenario I just described for you, where Biden wins and they take over the Senate. In case you're thinking about sitting this election out, this is a very big deal. I read this article this morning, and that's why I'm opening it on Friday, because on Friday I like to leave you some good news, but this is serious stuff. We cannot dismiss the possibility that the 2020 election may not go our way. If you do it, you're doing it at your own peril. Listen, you know I'm a supporter of the president. I'm a supporter of what he's done on judges, on the economy, on the stand he's taken for law and order. You know that. That's not up for debate. That's just a fact. We don't always agree on everything, but I respect what he's done. Having said that, for me to tell you right now, don't you worry, this is in the bag, the polls are all wrong, forget it, is insane. I told you the story a few months ago of the time I was in the gym, and a good friend of mine who I adore, good man, came up to me and he's like, this was a while ago, but he's like, I don't believe these polls, they're all garbage, we're going to win. Please don't think that way, because that sounds, Joe, kind of like exactly what Hillary Clinton supporters said in 2016 and woke up the next day after election day and were like, what? What just happened? Scratching their heads in disbelief. Don't let that be you. Be anxious. Be afraid a little bit, because it will motivate you to action, to do something. Go out, get 10 of your friends. I call it the 10, 10, and 10 rule. Make 10 posts a month on your social media accounts. Make 10 phone calls to your friends about voting, and get 10 people to the polls on election day. That is your edict to go forward, please. That's the mandate across the country. You want to win? We got to do something, and I know you know that. Having said that, let me give you, to make you a little bit anxious in a healthy kind of way, let me give you kind of a horror story about what's coming if we lose this thing. This is not a joke. Wall Street Journal story today, worth your time. It's behind a paywall, but if you can get it, check it out. It's called The Filibuster is basically gone. Chris Coons, a key Biden ally, signals the Democrats will break the 60 vote rule for legislation if they win in this 2020 election. Ladies and gentlemen, if we lose the presidency and we lose the United States Senate, remember, we don't have the House. We could lose by a wider margin, but the Democrats run the House right now with Speaker Pelosi. If we lose the presidency and the Senate, this country will never, ever look the same. Let me go to screenshot one from this Wall Street Journal piece, in case you think we're making this up. This is how serious this is. Chris Coons, who fashions himself, he's a Democrat, but he fashions himself, Joe, an institutionalist and a moderate. This is a so-called, air quotes, moderate. They're never really moderates, but you get the point. This is what he said. He told Politico, quote, again, this is supposed to be a Democrat moderate. I will not stand idly by for 4 years and watch the Biden administration's initiatives blocked at every turn, Coons added. I am going to try really hard to find a path forward that doesn't require removing what's left of the structural guardrails. But if there's a Biden administration, it will be inheriting a mess at home and abroad. It requires urgent and effective action. Let me translate that for you, folks. When Biden gets elected, if they win back the Senate, they are going to dump the filibuster rule, which will require 60 votes to pass any legislation. They're going to dump all that. They're going to scrap that, and they're going to require just a majority in the Senate, which they will have. Combine that with their majority in the House of Representatives. And what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? That means you have a runway to the most catastrophic liberal agenda to take that plane off we've seen since FDR. And you know what will be there to stop them? Nothing. The filibuster for legislation is the only weapon you have when you're in the minority. The Democrats have used it effectively against President Trump and the Republicans. They just used it against Tim Scott, Republican senator from South Carolina's police reform bill. The Democrats filibustered it. The filibuster, ladies and gentlemen, will be gone. Why is this? And let me be clear about this in case you think, again, this is some bizarre conspiracy theory. The Wall Street Journal's not dumb. Why do you think they're quoting and citing Chris Coons? Because, ladies and gentlemen, he again fashions himself the voice of reason on the Democrat side of the House, of the Senate, excuse me. He's the so-called moderate. If he's saying filibuster, see you later, babe, have a nice day, or as my friend says, have a good Christmas, goodbye now. It's over. He's the voice of moderation. You think the left-wing radicals, the Bernie Sanders, the Liz Warrens, and others are going to get in his way? They're the ones pushing to get rid of the filibuster before Coons even said anything. You may say, well, Dan, that sounds really bad. Meaning Joe Biden and the radical left will pass whatever they want? That's exactly what I mean. There will be zero obstacles to stopping them. They're telling you now. You may say, that sounds awful. Can it get worse? Of course, it always gets worse with the Democrats. Let's go to screenshot 2 from the Wall Street Journal piece, which I'm telling you, I got a little agita this morning when I read this. I was like, oh my gosh, get the Pepto out. And it wasn't due to the ulcer. The ulcer's healed, the stomach's okay, which is great. Here it is, screenshot number 2 from the Wall Street Journal. Congress could also pass statehood for Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, tilting the Senate further left. A simple Senate majority could also change the composition of the federal judiciary, including the Supreme Court. The mere threat of this may already be causing Chief Justice John Roberts to move left. You may say, that sounds really bad. Sounds really bad. You would never, ever have a Republican majority in the Senate again. So keep in mind factor 1 in the catastrophe, nightmare, apocalypse now scenario I just described for you, where Biden wins and they take over the Senate. In case you're thinking about sitting this election out, or for the principled conservatives, like that complete zero Carly Fiorina. Remember the fake Republican? She came out and said, I'm supporting Biden, the principled conservatism. Thanks, Carly. She's been a zero from day one, by the way. The most obnoxious human being I've ever met. Ran into her once at CPAC. Couldn't have been more of a snob. So I was done with her a long time ago. But these are the principled conservatives. This is what you're fighting for? Basically no obstacles whatsoever towards a far left radical agenda with no filibuster to stop it and a permanent majority in the Senate and on the Supreme Court. Nice job, Carly. Thanks for fighting for principled conservatives. What would we do without principled conservatives like you?
You just heard Dan Bongino.